Good morning. Happy Monday. How was your weekend? I hope it was good. I had a very eventful weekend, a big learning weekend for me. As always, my big learning weekends make for a great Monday message, but for a tough weekend. I was in the Toastmasters International Contest. You know that contest? I talked about it in a few weeks ago. How I was like, I'll join in and see what happens. If anything happens, yay. If nothing happens, I'm okay with that too. And I was until I started making it closer and closer. I was like, one step away from actually getting to the semifinals, and I was like, oh my gosh, And so suddenly my I said I didn't care about it, but I really did care a little bit about it. I wanted to win. However, I was like, okay, just keep it in perspective. I didn't want to have it any time, especially like that one time I lost and I went like crazy. So I just wanted to kind of just keep it in perspective. However, it turns out, and that was my prayer. My prayer was, God, help me to do the best I can do. And wherever I fall, I fall. And if I don't land where I want to land, then help me to accept it. And I'll tell you what, my prayer was answered. I got up, I did my contest. I think I did I for me it felt like one of the best versions I did of this speech that I was giving, in which I talk about my alcoholism, my journey as an alcoholic. And I poured out everything I had and I gave it all I had. And there were 5 contestants. And I thought, I will at least land in the top 3. And if I don't win the big one, I'm okay. Well, they announced the winners and I didn't even fall in the top 3 out of 5. So leads me to believe that I'm either 4 or 5. I can safely deduct that my speech did not even make the top 3 out of 5 contestants. It could be worse. Like my friend Kristen, she said that she was in a beauty contest and she came in 3rd and there were only 3 contestants. So, and at first I was, I was like, oh yeah, the Oscar clap. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Thank you. They're so good for you. And then deep down inside, I'm dying. I'm like, what the hell? What happened to my speech? Why did I do so bad? And suddenly, I started doubting myself, and I started using it as instead of a form to grow at the time, I was using it as a stick to beat myself up, because this was further evidence that I suck and I'll never be anything and I can't do anything. And I had to, and of course I run to Facebook and I put on Facebook, I lost, and got some comfort from my friends and read some uplifting things they wrote, which is always nice. You always kind of turn to friends for comfort when you're feeling like crap. And so I was just, I wasn't the crazy Kelly that I was when I lost last time. The character defects didn't take hold. And, I will say humility was there, but even more than humility, it was self-esteem. My self-esteem was took a knock, and it sucked, because I'm wired to believe that I can't do it. I'm wired to believe that I'm worthless. I'm wired to believe that I'll never do anything right. And as much, as many facts as there are that I'm doing everything right, all it takes is that one little one to screw everything up. I can be, I think about it like a spiritual engine. Your spiritual engine's going, 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 going. And then somebody throws a little pebble in it and it just locks the engine and it won't go forward. And that's kind of how it felt with this. The spiritual engine was going. I was feeling okay. I was feeling centered. I was feeling with God. And then this little pebble gets in and stops the engine. And so I let the pebble just sit there for a while. And finally, I just got sick of the discomfort of having it sit there, that I said, okay, the only way to get rid of this little pebble that's ruining, it's jamming up my engine here, is I need to take a look at it and I need to pull that pebble out, look at it, and throw it away. And so, and not to just throw it out, maybe just give it to God and let it be there. So I took a look at this little pebble. I picked it up and I looked at what was going on, because that's the tools of the program. 12-step recovery teaches me to do that. If I want to sit feeling crappy all day, I can. It's not going to do anything for me. I need to take a look at it. And it came down to, um, God answered my prayers exactly how I needed to be answered. Because, I could win. I could win. And what would happen? I would have another trophy and pat myself on the back. Good for you. Yay. However, the fact that I get to look at the pebble, I really, that was the big power of losing this time, because I wouldn't have done anything unless I was in a little bit of pain. And like Jane Fonda says, no pain, no gain, honey. And so that was going through my mind. It's like, as I'm taking Chippy on a walk, I'm walking through with this pebble, thinking no pain, no gain. Let's use the pain to gain some serenity. And as I'm walking, I think about it, and I did, I was like, just get over your pride. And it wasn't. It was more than pride. It was hurt self-esteem. It was hurt self-worth. And I needed to be a little more gentler with myself, and understand that, yeah, I was disappointed. That's okay. But then I needed to take a look at the deeper thing. There was fear going on there. There was always a fear right at the base of what it is. And that pebble that I was holding on, it was a fear pebble more than anything. And as I took a look at that fear, I always know that when I'm in fear, it's a lack of trust in my higher power. But I need to figure out how I got to that place of the lack of trust so I can understand the fear and be free of it. So as I started whittling down the fear, it's like, why do I have this fear? And a couple of things came up. One was that I had a fear that I wasn't good enough, that I wouldn't ever be anything, that I would never make it as a speaker. What was I even thinking? And as I started thinking about that, and then that's having fear is not trusting that God's given me the gifts and talents that I need to have to do what I need to do according to his will, and not trusting that my talents are good enough. I was placing my whole being on the judgment of people I don't even know. I couldn't even see in a Zoom room, that who knows what was going on. Maybe they were friends with the people. Who knows? I was basing my whole self-worth on people I didn't even know and I couldn't even see, because they said that my speech was not good enough. So that I had to say, okay, remove the faith and trust in these people that you've never met to your intimate relationship with your higher power, who loves you and who has given you gifts and who wants you to use the gifts and share the message. So that relieved that. And then there was the, kind of dealing with I, I thought that I should have done better. I felt that I should have done better in the competition. And then that came down to really not trusting that it turned out exactly how it was supposed to turn out according to God's plan. It wasn't my time. I don't know what God had going on with these other people, because my God is also their God as well, their higher power. And they may have really needed to win the competition much more than me, probably a lot more than me, definitely. I mean, not even probably, it's definitely, if it happened that way, that's how it was meant to happen. So it came down to me not accepting God's plan, thinking I knew better than God, not, once again, trying to play God instead of let God. And when I came down to that realization, that was huge too. So it boiled down to, when I whittled down this little pebble that had been irritating me and jamming up my spiritual engine, it was not having faith that God, placing my faith in other people instead of God, and then playing God and believing I knew better than God, neither of which worked very well. So once I acknowledged that and I saw that, I was like, okay, I can be free of it. And so I gave the pebble to God and I let go. And then I was free. And I didn't have to carry that around. The spiritual engine started going again. And then I jumped on to a 12-step recovery meeting. And of course, what are they talking about? Learning through pain. And I'm like, "Ah, there you go." And then I go to church that night, and the homily is about um, not beating yourself up and trusting in God's plan for you. So I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear with your bullhorn there. But through the pain, I gained, and through losing, I won once again. So, how is this message tied to you? Well, if you're in this similar situation where you find yourself feeling a little bit of shame, feeling like maybe there's a little kink, a little pebble in your spiritual engine that's keeping you from going where you want to go and being totally tied to God, pull out that pebble. Take a look at that pebble. What's going on? What's going on with that pebble today? Whittle it down. And then once you understand the pebble, give it to God and let God handle it and let God take it from you. So you can once again have that spiritual engine going and you can be tied to your higher power according to, your God's great plan for you. So that's my Monday message for you today. I didn't win Toastmasters. Toastmasters for me is like the great learning ground for my sobriety. It's like when the dentist gives you the little things, so you think you're brushing your teeth really well, and he gives you the thing to bite down to the show where all of the things are, and you see like your whole mouth is red because you weren't brushing it properly. That's Toastmasters for me in my spiritual program. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope this message finds you well. And if you're enjoying these, subscribe. Let's keep in touch. And we'll see you next week for another Monday message. Bye.